introduced everybody, and Earl has joined us, so we have a full board here. We'll pledge of allegiance in a moment of silence. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
No one needs to see our million.
Thank you. Any revisions or deletions to the agenda? Hearing none, we'll go on to consent agenda. We're going to pull the Assistant Treasurer's report out of the consent agenda. And there's a typo on item B, removed from consent agenda for the secretary. I think that was carried on from last month, so that's not active. So do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Richard, do you want to discuss your thoughts?
Yes. I don't know if this can go up on the screen, but I had.
We have it all in our packs, so.
You have it in the pack.
Yep.
It builds on what many of the candidates on both the BPW and city council elections were requesting better information about the two entities. And with relation to BPW, the need or the benefit that would come from having more outreach to the public. And so I made a little chart. It's also building on Earl's evaluation from extensive interviews that he had while he was campaigning on the need for outputs from BPW. So I did a graphic, kind of a chain of command, starting with voting ratepayers elects the board of directors who oversee the general general manager. And the general manager has the jurisdiction and the oversight of direct staff, various contractors, suppliers, and vendors, wastewater treatment plant operator, and the 4 utility entities, if you will, the treatment plant, the electric supply, water supply, stormwater maintenance. And all of this information is written in various documents, on the website or in newspaper articles, but not really well understood by the public. And in consultation with Darren and Earl and some other people, the 4 elements, wastewater plant, electric, water supply, and stormwater, could be amplified by video clips, news articles, interviews, and tours and demonstrations, such that we've broken out on a piecemeal basis or a day in water supply, day in stormwater management, day in BPW staff operations, ready to serve explanation, emergency preparedness, also the wastewater details, the level of complexity, oversight, accreditation of the vendor, the operator, in words exists, but in video or individual clips, interviews, and so on, as well as the general manager's general managing report, a lot of excellent information in words, which can be better presented visually, graphically, I believe, and help educate the public on what the BPW does for the city and for the public, and build a better awareness with these outputs for the branding of BPW. How does it work, and what does our team do? So that's what I had in mind.
Are you thinking we would do this in-house or farm it out to a specialist? I mean, if they were going to produce some of these things, videos particularly, that it should be done professionally, I would think.
Yes.
So that it looks,
It might be
like a good-
farmed out
Yeah.
or worked with any of the technical schools, Sussex Tech, people who are training. I don't know what Darren had in mind or when we discussed it, whether he had a particular method of who to contact or how to do it in-house or out-of-house. Outhouse is not good.
It might be most appropriate.
For the wastewater part, anyway. Yeah.
So looking for the right resource or resources to do this, starting with take one issue of how does the wastewater plant really work? And do a simple graphic of as 5 different stages of the plant, and on a graphic of how the process works from the inflow to the outflow into the canal. And if there's 5 sections, there's 5 different 2-3 minute videos explaining this is what it is, this is what this portion is, the headworks. This is what the next section is, the trains, the UF trains, and so on. And have them accessible in sequence, or like the Zooming or the streaming, session 1, session 2, session 3, and have it accessible on the website, or do streaming sessions, maybe part of an open meeting on a presentation of what BPW does with the city for the holiday lights, Lewes and Bloom, electric car recharging stations, things like that, that internally we know about, but, and it may be written someplace in a paragraph, but the visual is more powerful than the words.
So if I can jump in just a little bit, Richard and I have talked about it, and Austin and I have talked, and Austin kind of thought maybe we could take the tour that we give to the wastewater treatment plant, break it down into those 2-minute bites from headworks to, all the way through process. And we thought that probably we have a staff member, Sharon, that would probably be able to do, and let's practice it. They can probably come through, do some of that, bring it back to you, the board, share it with you. If you think it's quality enough, if you think it's not quality enough, then we can, change it
Try
from there.
in-house.
I would suggest trying it in-house that it works, that would probably work well. Sharon's done a great job on the Facebook and and working on our webpage. And I think it fits right into that. And that would be my recommendation.
My thought, I think that's great. And if we did that, the treatment plant is probably the most complicated thing of all the four.
But it's probably the easiest to get recognition and interest because of the controversy it has taken since the spill. And it's a physical plant that people can go see, even from outside the gate. They know where it is. And it's an easy thing to relate to as a starting point and maybe as the model of subsequent outputs.
That's probably the most controversial, obviously, of the four. And I would, my feeling would be is to do something simpler, make sure we get it down, because we don't want to spend a lot of time and money testing it on the wastewater treatment plant that's more complicated. We could do the water system and the water plant and stuff like that. That would be an easy thing to do and try it. I agree, that's probably the most
Fine.
important, but I think it's, for that reason, it should probably be.
Well, as a trial.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
You're looking to put it on the website and make it valuable. We did a COVID demonstration with Mert Foos from the American Legion when we did to our employees about safety. And we did it down at the streets department. And we used Rob Waters, who does videos like this. It might be, he's a professional videographer. He's local, very reasonable charge. I'd be happy to provide the contact information. And you might want to just get a quote from him as to.
Good idea to get what kind of dollars we're talking about.
It sounds like this could build, I think it's a great idea,
Yeah.
but I think, you're building this, and I think getting somebody who does videography as a profession
Yeah.
might be a good investment, especially if you're looking to really inform the public in a way that, you can stage it.
I think it'd be better doing, sure Sharon could do a nice job, but she has her job to do. And if we're going to do it, I'd like to have it professional.
I'll give you the contact for Rob.
So I think we had to get a price.
And there's two parts, because you also got to think of how you're going to push the videos out. So with the current website, it's a little bit harder because it's you don't have as many bells and whistles to work off of, which goes into the new website, which Sharon is tackling. So it's kind of a two-parter. We can push it out through Facebook all day long, but to also put on the website, we're moving along with that project, but that project's not nearing complete yet.
And well, I agree with, a trial project. I think maybe doing like the headworks at the wastewater treatment plant, because it's more photogenic. It's kind of.
Beauty's in the eye of the beholder.
I'm not sure you could ever call a wastewater treatment plant photogenic.
We got the hope that can help us.
No insult, but.
Yeah, but is that, it's kind of hard for some of these things, like a video on the stormwater system. Everything's buried.
Well, I like.
The water treatment plant, we have a building out there, we have, some minor, but it doesn't have the video
Yeah.
oomph that, a big equipment does.
There's some pretty big equipment out there. There's big tanks and things. I don't.
I just as a suggestion,
Yeah.
I agree that we want to start small,
Well,
but maybe taking one segment, and, the headworks is kind of a manageable, compact, and has got visual interest.
all right. Well,
Just as a
Yeah.
suggestion.
Richard, would you mind? I assume Earl, you on board?
Yeah, absolutely, yes.
Tom?
Yeah, no, I think it's a great idea. I think going forward, we need to really start focusing in on PR more and getting the public trained more. Not trained, but more information to the public and so forth and so on. So I think this is a great start.
Do you mind taking it on and working with
No, not at
Austin
all.
going forward and
I'd be happy to.
getting the information from the
Yep.
mayor and take it to the next step and
Yeah.
see what kind of budget we have and that type of thing?
Yep.
All right. Well, thank you. Great idea. Thanks. Do I have a motion to receive Assistant Treasurer's report then?
So moved.
In a second. All in favor?
I,
Receive Infomark wastewater treatment plant report. Mike and Richard,
Thank you. Morning, everybody.
good morning.
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 So, jumping right into the headworks. So, Josh has set up a meeting between us, BPW, Keystone, who's the board's integrator, and the vendor, who is Hills Electric Motors, to review the project, the EQ pump replacement controls project. So we're have a call scheduled for Monday morning. So that project's moving forward. Regarding the rebuilds of the headwork equipment, we asked for a full turnkey proposal from Sherwood Logan, the sales vendor for the band screens, both the 2mm and the 5mm. They were out on site a couple Fridays ago on the 9th. I called and emailed the gentleman yesterday to try to get a status update, and he had not got back to me. So we did put the temporary solution that we talked about with the dewatering roll-off container. We're still working some bugs out there. The liner, the initial liner we got was too fine, so we got a new liner with it's a bigger pore size. So we actually put that in and installed it this week, but we're having some control issues with the pump today. So we have an electrician coming out today to troubleshoot that. Moving into the filters, we finished the first cleaning of the last train. Train 3, or actually, I was mistaken. We are actually putting that back online today, not Wednesday. So they were doing some chemical cleanings prior to putting it back online. Pulling train 4, which was the first train that we cleaned and we put back into service on March 8th. We'll be pulling that in the next week or two to evaluate and see what the condition of it is, and to assess how quickly we'll need to pull and clean that. Get back to cleaning all the other three units. That's really all I had for my report.
How do you think this temporary fix we have is working?
I mean, I think it has potential to be a long, short-term solution. We got about 2 weeks, a week and a half out of the one dumpster, but we haven't had time to test the bigger micron screen, so it got fouled with grease. And
What is the new one that you have? What is the microns? How big of a screen is that one?
250 microns.
Okay, so I told you the last time that the one we had in was a 300 micron, and I was in error. It was more like 130.
It was 1/3.
So now they're going up to a thicker, and I think I believe this is, and frankly, how much does each one of those filters cost?
These cost a lot more. The other ones were $85 a piece. These are $250.
It's still very reasonable. So I'm not saying that out loud to you, that's, but it's very reasonable cost that we're looking at every couple of weeks, having it to be replaced at $270. It's a very reasonable.
We're getting that long out of it. I mean, that seems,
Well, the real question is what's it doing to the filters? So
Right. I think it's going to be helping in the long, very much
do you
helping
see
in the
that?
long
You've
run.
been able to see any of that?
Well,
It's not been very long.
since we took the life hacker offline and have been pumping the screenings into the grit auger, we're seeing we're getting a lot more debris out than we had been prior. So that's definitely a positive. So, even worst case scenario, we continue to do that, which is not our plan, but that it's still better than what was before. So but we're hoping, if the 250 micron doesn't work, we'll try a bigger pore size. So we can find out.
But is it too early to judge what's happening at the filters?
Yeah, I mean, it is, because even just, what got through prior is still circulating, a bit within the biological trains. So, but it would be too early to assess. But we, like I said, last month, just bringing the mixed liquor down, we're hoping will produce less fouling in the membrane.
I think by next month, you'll have a better feel about.
We'll pull train 4 definitely by our next meeting and have that evaluated.
Good.
Temporary screen that we have, the process that we have right now is shown about between 300 and 400%.
Wow.
So on page 6 of the report, you talked about pump station 4 clogged with rags. And, this has been an ongoing problem. Can you tell what type of ragging is in there? I mean, is it disposable wipes? Is it,
Beach towels.
It's a combination of disposable wipes along with other types of products that have a tendency to get flushed.
Is it possible to get photographs? Because that would be helpful for our outreach effort.
Sure.
To educate the public on what this type of
Yeah.
material
You
does.
got to be careful about putting out dirty pictures.
The Supreme Court ruled on that and they said it's in the eye of the beholder. I
That's
think
right.
it's-
So very seriously, what would you guess? Is it 50% just, flushable, unflushable wipes and probably another 25% feminine products? What is,
Unfortunately, due to the combination that occurs, it's hard to determine
Got it.
what the percentage is. exactly.
just ground to nothing? Okay.
Well, we can call it anything we want to call it. So, we can start with handy wipes because that's a problem.
Yes.
So let's just tell
Flushable
people that that's a problem. Then we can come back and say, well, wait a minute, it's also this.
Correct.
Well, no, I think we should put out a total list of
Yeah.
what we think it is. I mean,
Yeah, well,
this way. But I mean, I think, a picture, to Richard's point, says it tells 1,000 words. And I know we've done press releases, we have things on the web,
Yeah.
but some pictures of what this is actually doing. It's like the greasebergs whenever they release them from New York City or Philadelphia. That gets people's attention when you see these things.
And it may be like at Station 4 is where we're, most of everything on the other side of the canal plus the county is going into Station 4. So it may be a long-term solution to put a bar screen in at Station 4. So you have the room there. So that might be something to look into in the future.
You mentioned the county. You don't think that that's anything particularly harmful? I mean,
Or we could
they're not
ask-
doing anything more than we are.
We're not sure if the county has bar screens in front of their pump stations, but that's something we could explore too. And
Right now, you don't think it's worse than ours?
I don't
Yeah,
think
It's
so.
indeterminate.
Yeah, okay.
Everything gets ground up and then it kind of intertwines back together. That's
Yeah.
what happens.
Yeah.
So the other question, and I think you answered this, is on page 8, the unclogged 2 mm screen temporary screening pump. Is that is, I assume, related to the change in the filter?
So we
The
have-
temporary filter?
We have 2 temporary systems in place presently. One is just a small submersible 2-inch pump that supplies the washings from the screen to the grip screw, which was our first attempt at temporary solution to recapture as much as possible. And we also have the dewatered dumpster, which is also, so when one system is experiencing issue, go back to the other, that way we are continuously utilizing it in trying to plug them off to first.
So in the long term, once we get the screens done, the headwork rebuilt, the new compactors in, this will all go away.
Yes, yeah, and that's the first solution going into the grid auger. That's more time consuming. That's what's giving us problems. It gets clogged, but it is working. It's working better than, before we took off the light factor. So that's why we're trying to get this other system online as quickly as possible.
What's the best estimate that you can make on getting the headworks and everything back to normal?
I'd say by the end of first quarter 2022 is a reachable goal, so that's.
So 9 months, 9-10 months.
Yeah.
Most of everything that's been talked about, from the pista grid to the compactor to the screens, they're all sitting and being looked at by GMB and by Sherwood Logan to make sure that they, are standalone products that will work and will fit within the space. So once that's done, we can move forward with the ordering, and then you're dealing with lead times.
Do we know what the lead times are approximately now?
Well, that's a loaded
Approximately.
question, but did you get
It
anything?
was 16 weeks was on the first quote, I think.
4 months. Been delayed since that point.
Everything, I mean, we're experiencing, and I'm sure BPW is in their other aspects. We're
Right.
experiencing long lead times, chemicals, across the country, drivers. So we're experiencing longer lead times.
A tangential question. Are you having trouble getting hypochlorite or chlorine products?
We aren't here, other parts of the country.
Yeah, I know, because there's a tremendous shortage with the,
Yeah, we don't use a lot here. We're not getting tanker loads anymore.
on the Suez report on page 15, I think it is, it says, it's talking about the TMPs being above 1 PSI. And there's a comment in here about, no hypochlorite cleaning, but that there is a potential of a small accumulation of pore fouling.
That, I believe, is in reference to, it's a combination read based on just the data. We have been doing the cleanings, we searched back, and one of the units that was offline at the time by.
Do we have that?
That particular.
Trying to see it.
I don't.
Time,
have
so.
It was talking
Oh,
about,
wait a minute.
it was talking about train 2. That the, and it had recommended doing the hypochlorite cleaning to.
We've gone back through and verified our records that all of the both hypochlorite and acid had been complete. But in regards to the question of the I believe that may actually be some. That's what
I think you're looking at the wastewater treatment plant biweekly report for 7/14/2021.
Correct.
And it's the third bullet point on the plant summary.
Oh, yeah, I'm
The
sorry.
page
I'm
is
looking at
It's
my
page 2.
PowerPoint.
Page 2, not 15.
Well, it's page 14 on the Adobe Acrobat file. Yeah, I apologize, yeah.
So I see at least 3 page 6s in their report.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
because
there's
there's three-
And it's-
several
it's-
bi-weeklies.
it's-
Yeah. Yeah, okay,
They repeat different
yes, I see.
reports, page 1 through 3.
And then later on, it talks about the aerobic zone dissolved oxygen was at 0.34 ppm. And it said there was also a corresponding increase of the anaerobic zone. And this was in the June 30th to July 12th range.
We have been discussing that with Darren and Austin. Our air system's maxed out. And oxygen transfer is better in colder temperatures. So during the summer, we, generally would have a harder time putting DO in the wastewater, especially when it's very hot. So with increased loading and being in the summer time and are having difficulty at times. We're in the process of getting together with data and trying to see if we can get some more horsepower out of those blowers. Sometimes maybe paint out full bigger motor and potentially not have to replace the full blower.
Now, you've said that we have discussed it, but I would say that on the level of great concern and that you're watching and it's okay, you are still here. Am I interpreting that correctly? I don't want to give anybody here the idea, oh, it's the sky is falling.
No,
We're still okay. It's something that we're watching. Those numbers give us an idea that something.
I was
to
looking
work
at it more from the long-term aspect. I mean, without uttering the nasty words of climate change, we're seeing more and more warm weather spells.
Yeah.
And if, this is temperature related or degradation of the blowers, I'm not sure which one. Is it something, and it sounds like it is something we're looking into, how to increase the air capacity for the system.
We did have one of the blowers go down, and so they are looking at that very thing. So,
But it was one of the
maintenancing.
blowers that feeds the
Yeah.
trains. And we have 5 blowers that feed the trains. We still have 4. We're ordering a backup so that we have it, and we're having the one fixed. So we'll be all set.
So we'll have a spare.
And I guess just tangential, and we've talked about this before, is given the longer lead times, we had talked about relooking at the stocking levels.
Mhm.
Where are we at with that for stocking spare parts?
We have at the wastewater plant, for the most part, we have spares of everything. The blower that Austin referenced, we had redundancy, so we only need 4. We had 5 online. There wasn't a spare. We're getting a spare there. We have spare motors for just about every piece of equipment, a spare permeate pump for the UF trains. Pump stations, we have spares for, there were 5, I believe 5 pump stations that we didn't have spares for, but we have 2 pumps in each of those pump stations, but we don't have a 3rd spare sitting on the shelf that I identified. And we did get pricing from Hills to get spares for all of those pumps, but comes back to talking about, do we want to move away from the grinder pumps? So we're still evaluating that. Want to go more towards a standardized pump station, in the future. A lot of times with the pump stations, if we in an emergency, we could retrofit it.
And I know you brought the temporary pump in.
Yeah, we can always get a temporary bypass pump.
Yeah, it's just given lead times now, it's.
No, it is a concern, and Darren asked us to put that information together.
All right, well, thank you.
Any other questions?
I will tell you one thing. So I referred to Richard as the Hulk. We gave a tour, Robert, and we had a couple of young men when I did young, what were they, probably 8 years old. And we got out there and it was, you walk and it's kind of noisy and crinkly. And I said, hey, look it, the Hulk walks on this. He showed up and the young man, he just relaxed. Everything was okay. He knew if he could do it, he could do it. So it was just right. So anyways, I promise you that was a term of endearment. Thank you.
Anything else? Well, thank you very much.
All right.
It's a good report. All right. Oh, sure.
Yep.
Sure.
Thank you.
You too. Okay.
Chris, could we get an idea of how many people are on the meeting?
Yeah. Do you know?
Looks like 5.
Yes, it's 5 there plus the participants.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Item 6, President's Report. I really have nothing to report other than to acknowledge the leaving of our general manager and how badly we'll miss him. I'm sure we'll carry on, but Darren, you've done an excellent job for the 12 years you've been here. As I've told you earlier, you've done everything we've asked you to do in a professional manner, and you've coordinated with us very well, and of course with Mike and everybody that you need to. So thank you for all you've done. You put together a team that's efficient, responsive, and do it in an economical fashion so that our rates are the lowest. Some of our rates are the lowest in the state. So, and we have an excellent safety record, thank God. So, and the reliability awards we get reflects the work they're doing too. You put together a great team, and thank you very much for everything.
Thank you.
I will second that.
Thank you. Thank
Uh, We'll tell you what we really feel in the picnic.
you. Can I make a recommendation?
Yes.
You've got number 7 is my report.
Right.
It's going to be fairly lengthy.
Okay.
I would recommend that you go ahead and do number 8 next, and then just switch that order if you would like to, so we can give
Okay, let's do that. Okay, yes.
Kimberly and Kayla an opportunity to not have to sit through it.
Okay, we'll skip item 7 for now, and we're into presentations. Item 8, receive ZA's LLC's annual audit report for 2020 to 2021. Kimberly, and did you want to start with that?
Good morning. I'm Kim Stank. This is Kayla DeMar. Thank you for having us today. We appreciate it. We would love to thank Darren for all of his help, and we will too miss him. So good luck, Darren. But we also want to say that, one of the big things that happened this year was you changed your financial system, and kudos to Austin and to Darren and to Chris and Kim and everybody who worked on that team to flip over to a new accounting software. Definitely, we've seen some improvements, and you're utilizing that software system, and it seems to be a great package that you've gotten. As far as our audit this year, the audit went very well. We appreciate everybody's assistance. The audit report itself has been presented to you. You have a copy of that. Talking about the audit report, it is broken into some separate sections. The first section is your independent auditor's report, which is our opinion. And you have a clean opinion, and unmodified opinion is the technical term for that. And with that, it's the highest assurance that we can give you that as far as the overall look of your financial statements. The next section is management's discussion and analysis. And within those few pages, that's pages 4 through 9, there's a really great synopsis of kind of what's happened to your financial statements over the last year, and discusses highs and lows and the outlook to the future. And at this point, I'll turn it over to Kayla just to give you a brief discussion over the financial statements themselves.
So in your statement of net position, your total assets did increase. This is primarily due to a lot of the infrastructure projects and the development of your wastewater and sewer systems. Your total liabilities decreased, and this was mainly because of your debt payments that made in the normal course of your business. Your unrestricted net position was 4.7 million this year. That is a decrease from last year, but it still maintains a healthy balance. On your statement of revenues and expenses and changes in net position, there was an overall increase of 3.1 million in your net position. This was caused by the fact that your revenues increased during the year, which is primarily due to changes with the pandemic. You had residents staying in the town, and you also have a very strong customer base and collectability rates. Your operating expenses stayed pretty much consistent with your prior year. And then this year there was a change in your investments just due to the economic conditions in the market, which did bring that up. And I'll turn it back to Kim.
So again, there's footnotes as well as required supplementary information. Then we go into your government auditing standards report, which is a report over internal controls, and we did not see any deficiencies that need to be reported to you. So overall, great audit. We appreciate everybody's assistance with everything. And again, Darren, we wish you well.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Are there any questions that anyone has of us?
I think we've been well informed prior to this meeting, so I don't see any here from the board. Earl, I didn't want to pass you by. Anything?
No, it's just, I mean, with the changing of the new system, with everything that was going on with COVID and everything else, the fact that these guys had this kind of success in this is really amazing. I mean, I would have thought there would have been issues just because of new systems, much less COVID and everything else that was going on. So congratulations to the entire BPW team and to the audit staff for letting us know all this. It's a fantastic track record.
And I would simply say that track record weighs heavily on Austin. Austin did the yeoman's job there and did exceptional, putting the team together, making it work, getting it implemented. Thank you.
Thanks.
Great job.
Thank you. To those that are listening, that this will be online. If you want to go through it in detail, I highly recommend for everybody listening that they at least open it up and read the general manager's report. It's on pages 8 and 9. It kind of summarizes what happened this past year. It's very interesting and it's very concise, but it gives you an idea of what's been going on to BPW. So if you don't look at anything else, I really recommend that you read that if you're interested about how we're operating, what we're doing. Anything else? Thank you very much. Nice job.
Thank you all. Have a great day.
Thanks, guys.
Have a motion to accept it.
I make a motion that we accept the audit.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Then did you want to make mention of the 2 corrections you made in the general manager's report, which you're going to change?
I think they're minor.
Okay. Right.
When we put it online, it'll be there.
But you'll correct it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, new business, open forum, general discussion of assigning the board of director for DMAC board to Austin Kalaman, alternate director, Kimberly Belair. I'm sorry. I haven't used her last name yet. Darren, do you want to tell us what's going on there?
With my exit, we need to have 2 directors. One is the actual director that sits on the DMEC board. DMEC is the Delaware Municipal Electric Corporation. They are the entity that is a joint action agency with whom we have a couple of things. Number 1, they help us purchase our power and they do a great job. Number 2, they help us make sure that we stay inside of our requirements for the state renewable portfolio standards. They also represent us at legislature and at the legislative hall for many of our utility needs. And they're a fantastic organization. And as that part, I recommend that you have Austin be assigned as the new board member, board of director, and that Kimberly Belair be assigned as the, what are they called? Alternate director. So that is my recommendation to you.
Good. Motion.
Make a motion to approve the recommendation or the change in DMAC directors as noted.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, item 11, open forum general discussion for scheduling a workshop to review and discuss BPW policies and resolution. Earl and Tom, do you guys want to jump in here?
I can go ahead and start and then you guys can follow in. And I think the reason why this is important, obviously the board develops policies, the GM follows the policies. And then part of the annual review process with the GM and compensation is based on adherence to those policies. So clearly policies are the foundation of the business. Having a review from that from time to time, I think makes a lot of sense. There has been a lot of work that's been done on this. Tom Panetta created an initial file that got used, Tom Owens, and it was just a Tom and Tom thing that kind of made that happen. Also did a ton of work on putting all this together. I did some of the typing, so you'll see a lot of typing errors probably. But the idea is take a look through the policies. And again, we went back to policies starting back in 1903 and kind of ferreted through all the ones that were kind of in and out. It is not a perfect document, but it is a good, foundation to start with, to look at this. As you look through the policies, you'll see things that we have that make sense. There's also some examples in the file that got sent out that shows some potential things to think about. And it was a wide-ranging idea from a bunch of different people on things that could possibly be put together as policies. Some good, some won't make the cut clearly. But I think having an opportunity to sit down as a team to look at this, to go through what we do, how we do it, where we might have gaps or holes, is an opportunity to kind of tighten that. And this is probably something that happens on a fairly regular basis. The reality is that the policies are the DNA of the business. And that's what makes sure that what we do today gets done next year and the year after that and the year after that. So I think having this kind of review from time to time makes sense. It will be somewhat of a clunky workshop, I will tell you. But I think there's certain things that we'll just go through and say, yes, yes, yes. And there's certain ones we'll have conversations on. And I think it's a helpful and valuable opportunity for all of us on the board to go through that.
Do you want to say anything?
Well, the only thing I would like to say is when we started, we had 135 or 40 or whatever policies starting at 1905.
Yeah.
And so going through them all was very interesting. And we were able to basically cut out a lot of them because many of them had been superseded, and many of them, I think, of giving a payment to the board of directors for their service. We thought we just probably didn't need to do that because $50 a month. And in any case, our attorney, Mike Hoffman, said that he thought it would be a good idea to have all the policies in one place. So one of the things I did was to make sure not just that list of policies we already had from the BPW, but go and look at the employee handbook and so forth and so on, several different documents. And what we found was there were other policies out there and in those documents. So we incorporated those as well. So finally, when we come up with the final list, we're going to have them all, at least try to get them all in one place. So that's the idea.
Some of those things were resolutions that never really get made to a policy, but
Well,
yeah.
our list is going to have about 80% of them are going to be resolutions that
Okay.
we're recommending to look at to
Okay.
be policies. Yeah.
Tom, I know you spent some time on this too. Do you want to?
Well, actually, all I did was create the original file with the hyperlinks and, the notes. So this was Tom Owens and Earl. And I just want to make sure that the treasurer is still responsible for collecting past due fees.
And the assistant treasurer as well, or secretary. But yeah, that's a $50 go out and knock on doors and collect bills kind of thing. So
And that is staying in,
we need to
correct?
take that one off as quickly as possible.
I'm sure you could use the money though.
Especially having us have to switching hotels.
Now, this was Tom Owen and Earl's basket.
Thanks, Tom. I know
You're being overly kind, Tom, but thank you.
when would you like to do this? Do you have a time period that you think you'd be ready to?
That was, that's the why we have it here. So
Yeah.
we don't know what everybody's schedule was. So,
You want to
I mean,
suggest?
we could be ready in, I would, a week or so? I mean,
Look, I think as soon as possible is the right way to do it. Based upon people's schedules. So I think take a look through the document that got sent out. See if you view it as a good foundation to start from. It's not perfect, but is it a foundation that we can actually go in and leverage into a working session? I think that would be something that could happen in the next 3 days, and then we can make any changes or fill any gaps that might exist, and then schedule a workshop that is probably next available time for all of us.
Okay.
Tom Owens or Tom Panetta or the press, what are your guys' thoughts?
Well, I think that it would be helpful if you all went through what Earl's put out there to see, you familiarize yourself with especially the resolutions.
Yeah.
There are some in there are policies already, but the resolutions and familiarize yourself with them so that you see whether you think it's worthwhile or not to put it into a policy. Then when we get together, we can go down and hear what everybody has to say.
Okay.
I don't know, it might be a better way to do it, but give me
No, that sounds like the way to do it. The week of first week in August. What's it look like for everyone?
Talking about a day or an evening meeting.
I think
That's a good
day.
point. Yeah.
Well, I don't know.
I don't.
It's a workshop.
Asking.
Do you think, I'm just thinking the day would be fine. I don't know that we'd have much input into this.
Karen, how's it fit in your schedule?
Whenever you'd like.
Or we could do it like we do at board meetings, 4 o'clock, if you wanted to do it that way.
The only constraints I have is Tuesday afternoon, and then Thursday is the next Association of Coastal Town meeting.
But that's 1 o'clock.
That's 1 o'clock.
Right.
Wednesday, the 4th?
Wednesday, the 4th, the city has its executive session on climate resiliency at 4 o'clock. So
How about the 5th? That's my cleanest day.
you've got later in the afternoon is okay.
What are you saying later?
Well, the ACT meeting will run until 2 anyway, so you're looking at 2:30 or 3 o'clock.
You want to do it like a 4 o'clock meeting?
Have to be
Probably,
done.
we could do it
Do it
upstairs.
Okay,
Yeah.
just at 6 o'clock and then.
Okay, no, we've got a really nice conference room upstairs. I don't know if you've seen it yet.
I
It's-
actually did coach my little.
Yeah, it's good. You want to say 4 o'clock on the 5th?
That can work.
Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Austin, if you could send that list of policies. It
Yeah,
wasn't
we just
included in
last
the,
night.
it wasn't included. Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Want to go back to your list? And you've got to finish before noon, because I've got something to do.
Okay, sounds good. What time have we got? It's 11:04.
I'm leaving also, so.
We're gonna go fast. Here we go.
Still before here, so I'll hang out with you.
You're doing item 9, because that was skipped. We skipped that.
We can look at all of it.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, I
It's okay.
jumped over that. Item 9, open forum general discussion of 2021-22 first quarter O&M financial review.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
we'll do that one right now as well. If you look at our year-to-date ending June 30th, 2021. I believe all of you have that in your packet and you take a look at it. Couple of items, and again, Kimberly Belair has done a fantastic job and she continues to do so and points out some of the anomalies, et cetera. If we look at our revenues, and I'm going to go quick and you can pull me back to the questions you might have. We've looked at a couple of things. Number one, line 6, revenues other, that is up. That line is made up of all of the construction that's going on and includes the fees that they pay, where we put the escrowed accounts that are going to end up taking and pulling from and paying for the additional finance fees that come from engineering, that also come from our professional services, our attorney. So when you look at line 6, you see that increase. We've got dollars in there from the Lewes Waterfront Preserve. We've got it from Schofield, Verdon, Tower Hill, Fisher's Cove, all of those things, and plus a dollar amount in there for the lodge at Historic Lewes, where we moved a pole for them.
How much of that, what percentage of that is not ours? I mean, has to be paid out.
I would say probably 80% of that.
Okay.
So it's a significant amount. So again, I look at that line 6. I then come down to line 13, which is our expenses for professional contractual services. And I see that influence on there, and it helps kind of level that out a little bit. The other on revenues,
report, or are you on the year to date? Not that it would.
year to date.
Okay, got it. Thank
I'm
you.
probably, and frankly, if it's up to you, I'm going to leave the monthly report for June. I'll
That's
let
fine.
it stand unless you have some specific questions on that. The SPI Pharma, if we look at the water revenues, those are up 29%. Again, a big chunk of that happens to be out of other revenues, but we've gone and looked, and SPI Pharma, they have been going great guns. They have not slowed down, and their usage is actually up again from the last few. So they've been doing it exceptional. Residential also, that's up 14%, even from last year, an extra 20,000 from there. Some of that has to do with a little bit of the incremental increase of that commodity charge that we had, all 7 cents per thousand. But that's where you see that. So usage is up. Again, I believe there's a real residual from COVID. People are here. I think, Mayor, have you seen anything with your businesses? Have they been doing better the last few months because of the numbers?
Yeah,
I mean,
the biggest challenge for them is the restaurants are not open for lunch.
Correct.
For the most part. So your water consumption is probably down for restaurants.
Probably in the restaurants. And if you look at that on the commercial, it still shows it up, but that's not a big number for us in there. When you look at the sewer, same thing, you'll see that it's up significantly. Again, a lot of that cost comes through the other revenues. So that's solid. Our revenues are doing well. I will also say, we've looked at the water flow for the month of July, and we've been doing it almost 2 million gallons a day on every single day of the weekend. Saturday, Sunday, and Mondays. That's just simply the way we do the metering. So you've got a lot of people here. The warm weather has absolutely got people irrigating. We're pushing a lot of water. We have a lot of water going through the pipes. When it comes down to line 13, professional and contractual services, it's still high above the 5-year average of which I create that number from. However, when you take a look at what we've done on the revenues other, it kind of balances that out as well. So that doesn't scare me. We do look at the administrative, and in the administrative line, we did write the check for $218,000 for our retirement contribution into our defined benefit. So if you take that number out of there, it's right on budget. And again, doesn't scare me. We're at 472,000 roughly then, which is very close to where we're at on budget. Line 16, bad debt, right off in April, and all good there. Even with our bad debt, I know we're going to send Earl out to help us with all the bad debt that we have there. But
I just need to write the check because I didn't pay him.
For a company doing $14 million worth of total touching of cash and having it all missing all of $5,000, our collections are not an issue. Interest and dividend income on line 22, that is down just a little bit. And then we look at the very bottom line of non-operating revenues. Again, that's line 28. And that's numbers that is not realized numbers. So if you look at it compared to last year, that was 1.2 million, budgeted at 100,000, and we're at 372,000. That's just one of those things that I take that number and I remove it out of the very bottom line, and we're tight. And so with that, we're strong on revenues. I look at that bottom line on 29, you remove the one above it, it tightens it up immensely, which tells me that as we had our discussion about rates and what UFS said, that we probably need to look at those small adjustments in our rates so that we can continue to be solid and have that, just instead of having a flat trend, having an increasing trend. I recommend that we do that. So we need to look very seriously at what we've got for that proposed rates in the future. Any questions?
The only one, general, is- oh, I'm sorry, Earl. I didn't mean-
No, go ahead.
Do we have a number for how much the irrigation is up? Because I mean, we haven't had rain in a month. So I can only imagine that a lot of the residential water is actually going to irrigation and not domestic.
We can
Agree.
pull it out.
We could,
We can pull it from the rate class.
and how many irrigation meters do we have? About 800?
Yeah, right around 800.
So it is a big number. We can pull it out and give you that number.
Yeah, just curious.
Yeah.
Because I would think that has a large impact as well as everyone using lots of milk and magnesia.
Absolutely, but take a note that that's going to be next month's. So we're always a month behind, so that's yet to come. So,
Well, yeah, but this
We had
lack
some.
of rain.
yeah, absolutely.
has Been going on since.
I
It's
think-
more now, it's more in July, but it started in June.
Correct,
Yeah.
correct. So I think you're going to see this amplified even more come July.
Okay, so for next month's meeting, I guess, if we can just get a feel for what that number is.
Well, Karen, while your debt is down, is any of it due to delinquent services or disconnect? Because
It really isn't because our disconnect. So one of the things that did hit us last year is we did not collect the fees or penalties. Now that number has been small. We only have like 2% of the total for those delinquent. And so was a small number. I don't think it would have been over $20,000 total for the COVID hit for us. So it was there.
that was a state mandate that you couldn't do that.
Correct, correct. And frankly, we went further on the time frame of when the state said we could.
Okay.
But we tried to be generous and not have an issue, but it was for us, that was a pretty small number.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
All right, if you'd like to jump into, if
Yeah,
there's
that's
other questions.
Just one thing if I can.
I'm sorry.
That's
Earl,
okay.
go ahead.
So if you look at the rate study that we had, we looked at the current revenue now, and that obviously, gives a picture. We've also talked about the need to get closure on the 5-year plan. That also ties into the cash reserve policy responsibilities as well. What's the thought or plan or perspective on how we bring all these things together? Whether it is, understanding what projects will be done in and out of scope. I know we've got a meeting with AMI on, I think it's in August. I'm just trying to understand what the process, and maybe Darren, you've probably been through this more than any of us. What's the process to go through to triangulate these different things to come up with finalized decisions and actions that come out of all these different pieces being put together?
So we're going to go through all the projects that I have, and I think there's another wild card, and I talked about it a little bit.
Right.
That I think we need to look at having a separate, an additional capital plan. Right now, we've taken at what our revenues are and at what we had set up for lending to maintain our reserve fund, and we had to stretch it out. And we had to move some projects out into the future. There's kind of a wild card with the America's Act dollars that are coming into play. And we want to take advantage of that. And so we're going to have to be somewhat flexible and perhaps move some of these projects even forward again, so long as we can take advantage of those American Recovery Act dollars. There's a lot of, we're going to have to ask you as a board to be very flexible. And that's where that quick decision making, we've got to get all the facts in front of you. I think we've done a lot of that already. So I think we need to look at, as a board, that if you guys were to have, plan some regular workshops where this can really be talked about and covered, so that Austin can be flexible and able to act and react to those opportunities just as quick as possible. I think that's the key. And that way you can also, as a board, get one voice to Austin. Where do we head? What do you want him to do? And so it's a nice, clear voice on what actions to take.
Those plans have to be obligated by 24 and spent by 26. So you're really talking about a compressed schedule.
And I think they're correct.
Aaron, as we go through your list now, let's check off the ones we think maybe we should be thinking about.
Okay. All right, let's go down the list. First of all, we've got the Savannah Road Sewer Extension. Now, if you look at the second and third, and I apologize, I don't have numbers on these. There's the Savannah Road Sewer 16 parcels, Savannah Road Water 16 parcels. So when we say Savannah Road, we've got to be careful that you keep your mind on those three different projects. Number one, the first project, what we're looking at is taking water and sewer across Savannah Road right at Donovan Smith Road. It's kind of catty corner. Donovan's Road. Yeah, sorry, Donovan Smith Road. And right across the way is Atlantic. So there's Atlantic. It kind of takes a little bit of turn, Teller Wine, and then it's Donovan's Road. And what we're doing is we're taking water and sewer across Savannah Road so that it can serve all of Dutchman's Harvest, all of the senior living at the historic Lewes, and connecting those others into that water line is going to provide a loop feed in there, which is essential. But really the most important part is getting that sewer across to help serve all of that new construction. Now, with that, recognize that all of that impact fees from Dutchman's and historic Lewes, they're going to help immensely on getting that portion across. We still have it in the contract that it's a pro rata share. But on that, the project is going forward. We're looking at having the finalized drawings from GMB. We're looking at putting it out to bid September to early October. This still fits all of the timelines that you're going to have coming from that new construction. Right on the corner of roughly Atlantic and Savannah is where the lift station is going to be put for the Dutchman's Harvest and senior living. And so you may see them actually constructing that prior to having our line across, but that will happen. The other thing that's going is part of the timing issue there is we're doing it in conjunction with the state sidewalk project. Now that's coming that's going to be a little bit afterwards, but we want to be in, have that done, and then the sidewalk can be put over the top of that. And so all of those things are working together to make that happen.
So that's basically ours. Is that right? The sidewalk project, whereas the others being covered totally by Shell and.
Yes, yes. Even so, we're gonna put the money out to
Yeah.
begin with, and then we're gonna receive it through the impact fees.
Any need to put that on our wish list?
Yes, it would be all right to put it out there, but I don't know that timing wise,
Okay.
we're gonna have to.
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you that almost everything we're gonna put out on that wish list. I think we need to go talk to, again, WEAC, find out what falls into this, what will fit. And again, we've asked Charlie O'Donnell to help us make that contact to make sure that we know. And again, shovel ready. This is pretty darn close to a shovel ready project, and it might fit in there just right. So next step.
Derek,
Yeah.
there is a priority under the guidelines based on affordable housing. So for Dutchman's Harvest, the timing is the issue, but it may rate highly because it serves
You got it.
workforce housing in an area where there is not much there.
Yep, we're gonna get in front of them and we'll see what they tell us. So
Earl, you have this list. They send that to
I don't.
could
it's on, I think I sent it to you in an email. Try, it was at 9:30 this morning roughly, or actually 9:45.
I will check. Thank you.
Sorry.
Yeah, I have it. Thank you.
Okay. Next on the list is the Savannah Road Sewer. And when we talk about the Savannah Road 16 parcels, this is the homes. It's not just homes, it's also commercial businesses, but they are 16 lots that are right alongside Savannah Road. They're on the south side of Savannah Road, right backing up to the high school, the majority of them, and then down to Atlantic. Those 16 homes we've got two projects there, and I've broken it out into two separate. Number one is the sewer. And we can go in and take care of the sewer by doing a directional drill. We can put a 2-inch low pressure force main in right down the high school property, come up from Atlantic, and then take and go into Henlopen Gardens. There's a manhole there. And we can do that at approximately $10 per foot. And the cost of that is just exceptional. And we're looking at moving. And so while it's a dual project, we're doing both water and sewer. We're going to do one at the front of the house, one at the back. The one in the back, that's your low pressure sewer line. We can set that out. That cost will be very reasonable. We will have the owners, it'll be their responsibility to put in their own e-pump and to take and connect it into that 2-inch line. And you can do that while it's live, and they can do it and connect it at any time that they want to.
So this is another case where we be doing multiple E1 pumps into a manifold.
Yes. But and if you look at that property, there's absolutely nobody else that's ever going to jump on there until the high school sells itself and it developed the land instead of a high school. I don't see that happening anytime soon. So that's where that design is. We're pretty confident that's all you're ever going to get on that line. So we're comfortable with that. Del Dot or GMB is going to do the permitting, and we'll get that moving again. And we had a little discussion is what do we need to do to make sure the difficulty there also is that we're dealing with 16 individuals. We do not have an HOA to deal with. So Austin's going to have a community meeting, present it to them, also talking about the requirements being a pre-annexation agreement with the city before they can move forward. Then we go to the next. That's the back of the house where the sewer is going to be. You go to the front of the house. The sidewalk project is going in. Del Dot is putting that sidewalk in. We have asked them to take our portion, which we're going to take every home on the property line. They're going to drill that. They're going to go down and touch the 16-inch water main that is right in their front yard and come up with a service to a split to 2 different meters. And so instead of, it's a little more than half. In other words, there's some of them that can't quite split. So I think we have 11 or 10 actual connections, and they will share that cost, but it's being bid by the contractors that are going to also do the sidewalk project. We don't know what that cost is going to be. If it's reasonable, we're going to go with it. If not, we may have to come back and see what we can get for a bid from a contractor to do that work, or we do it ourselves. Now, with that, we've got.
We're saying you might be multiple services off of a tap.
Yes. So we'll do a 1-inch.
Obviously, each would have their own meter once they get the split.
Yes.
So they have one tap.
Yep. So we're doing that to hopefully reduce the cost to help save them. We see it could be very expensive. We anticipate it's in the Del Dot right of way. It's deep. It's underneath the communication bank. There's a great big communication bank. They've got to go underneath that to get to that.
So is this all going to be within the right of way where the split is, and when it comes onto their actual property, that they'll be clean? They won't be.
Yes.
They'll service on
up into, so they're going to be tapped off the main, brought onto their property out of the right of way, set the curb stop. That's all they're going to do. And then
I'm just worried about the split, the first piece until it splits. That's all in the right of way.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely. So that's where it's going to be. A couple of things. We've had Steve Smick, who has said that he is committed $25,000 to that project because they are right next to our well field, cleaning up all the wells and getting them off of our aquifer is going to be a great benefit and environmental benefit for us. And so Steve Smick has committed $25,000 there. We'd also float this by the city if they have any of their ARA funding that might be able to help that. I have great anxiety that the bid that they're going to get on that from Del Dot is going to be high. And so we'll just have to see. Correct.
Right.
Correct. I don't know, but yeah, but if we're going to accept the 25,000 from Steve, it's going to be.
It's going to have to be
a prevailing wage. So as it is,
Are we sure?
pretty darn sure.
I think
Because
so.
I thought that if it was under a certain threshold, it didn't need to be.
Yeah, we should look into that. I'm not so sure that's
Cool.
as clear cut as that.
We've got some money in the.
We have, one of the things that we discussed with Del Dot is we had them put it in the project and said, we want to be able to accept or deny their bid. They pushed back on that for quite a bit, but we prevailed. And so we have the ability to accept it or not. And so we'll just have to see what that comes back as their quote. So we still have flexibility as where we're going with it. So.
You might want to talk to Glenn, because we also have money and like the project Mayor, that we met about last week.
That's right.
If it's subject to prevailing wage, that, no,
It's gonna next.
it almost negates the funding.
And I will tell you, I think with any ARA funding, I think there's some rules in there as well.
Yeah, those
It
are
is not
changing.
Subject to Davis Bacon.
Davis.
So far.
It is not subject.
So far.
That's just a clarification that came this week.
How they get that?
I don't know, but the US Treasury put out a updated FAQ on the 14th, and that was a new FAQ in there, and it specifically said that it's not subject unless it's a municipal project in Washington DC. I
Wow,
guess they have different rules.
wow, wow.
I was stunned.
That's a big.
That's a big change.
Oh, God, yeah.
So we're also recognize that while we're still dealing with them as an individual, we have a project for the sewer, we have a project for water, and we're keeping those separated.
Right.
Okay.
And that needs to be made very clear to the, when you have a meeting with those property owners,
Yeah.
because
And
they're gonna see it as one project.
The other thing is that we can do is we can move forward very quickly on the sewer, get that in and done. While then we're waiting almost another year probably for the water to be put in. So I think they're time-wise that we're safe at keeping those separated, and it's the right thing to do.
Did you look at the other side of Savannah Road? I know that.
We've got people talking to us there, and we're going to be looking at doing perhaps the same thing, a 2-inch low-pressure force main that
I
people can
think
tie into.
That's not gonna have a sidewalk on it. That's the way I.
It
understand
will not. They're not doing anything there.
But there are homes there and other properties.
And Austin's been talking with them
Okay.
and dealing with them. So we're looking at
Because I
getting
don't
there.
think, if you're gonna do it on one side of the road, we ought to have it.
You got it. It's not,
This is what we're running into with Chesapeake. And so it'd be nice to not have that happen.
you got it. Yeah, Austin, we're working on it. We're talking to them.
Okay, thank you.
Donovan Smith Mobile Home Park, simply say it's ramping up. Mike might have I would turn time over to Mike to talk about any easement questions, but sure, the shortness of time and wanting to hit that 12 o'clock, I'm not gonna give that to you.
All right.
Sorry about that.
All right.
And I think we know that it is kind of ramping up more interest. Hopefully, the easement question will be handled. We can move forward with that. That's a $5 million loan and grant. And unfortunately, that may change, that dollar amount may change. However, the state is very anxious to help make sure that it's a grant and that it is not a burden to the people of the park.
Once the easement is granted, what's the timeline look like?
Pretty much from that point in time, we would revisit and finalize any design changes. That would probably take a month, I would anticipate. It would go out to bid. That would probably take another month. It would be accepted, take another month. So you're probably 4 to 5 months out to turning dirt if we get the easement.
And they have
Do
to
you
be
agree with
annexed.
that?
And they have to be annexed.
And the question I actually, now you already have a document for annexation.
That's all it takes is a city council vote.
Okay, so so annexation should be, it's not.
The annexation report's done. The vote was affirmative to do it. It's just we can't do it until
Got
they've
it.
done until they sign the agreement.
Correct.
We
So-
want to put that, since we have 4 new council members, since that was done, we might want to put all that documentation
Together.
on the next agenda so that
We're ready.
bringing people up.
And if the start is at the end of the year, the beginning of next year, is whether any kind of a consideration of starting such a project?
What's nice about that project is it's not inside, so there's been stuff loosened up on DelDOT side to where there's not the moratorium on dates anymore. And also, it's inside the park and we'll start and we won't stop till it's done.
Weather isn't affected.
Other than rain days, there will be certainly rain days and certain things, it's just inclement weather. But no, we're not stopping for the winter for that one. We're gonna build it.
That needs to be done.
It's gonna be it's not gonna stop, so.
That project include the cleanup of the existing holding tanks and all that kind of.
That's his responsibility.
That's his
Currently-
responsibility.
Currently, the way it is, they have to abandon them, which frankly, you're filling them up with dirt, you fill them with sand.
Yeah, right.
He shouldn't have any issue with him
Okay.
abandoning it. One of the things to know, we are taking, it's as it's designed now, we build the main.
Right.
We're gonna stub it out to the edge of what's the existing road.
Right.
And it's gonna be Burnham's responsibility to connect it to each trailer.
Right.
So, and that's been known all along. There's no.
Right.
That's not a gotcha on anyway. Tower Hill subdivision. They are out there turning dirt right now. We have the RPRs out there. They're inspecting it. They're doing a great job. They've got a lot of the stormwater in the ground and they have started to work on lift station is actually in and done, and which then from there, they're going to do the rest of the water and sewer infrastructure. Time-wise, we're still good. We're still seeking for, we have had several meetings and coordinating with DelDOT, with Chesapeake, with the developer, with the drillers, so that we can get but we're waiting on DelDOT to give us an approved plat to take to the Pilot Town Reserve. The reserve at Pilot Town, so we can get the easement.
Yeah.
And that's one of those that we're going to ask for anybody that can help us to get that, to make it happen. Whether that's the HOA presidents have, their presidency has said, we have to have that approval from DelDOT before they'll even consider it. Then they're going to have a referendum from the citizens there. They need 51% of the vote. And if that doesn't come through, then we may have to go to the next, whatever level that might be, to get it. So one of the things that's kind of floated out there, if we do not have that sewer hooked up by the time they start, we have given them approval that they can pump from their holding tank, from their lift station, and take it to our wastewater treatment plant. That we will accept that. So that's and it will not cost us anything. It's their cost to do that entirely. But that's what we've said we will allow if we don't have that done in.
They'll have to get the permit from Denrick.
Yes, it's everything to do, but we will do the treatment of the effluent for them.
When you say pump, you mean truck?
Yes.
Truck, but you're gonna provide water too, so if you don't have the easement, you're not gonna be providing the water.
Technically, there's gonna be a well on site.
Well there.
Yeah. Next down the road is the well. We'll get there. So next is Lewes Waterfront Preserve. Contract to be executed after the city. One of the things is that the last city council meeting, the requirement that they are going to put fire system in the entire thing, that is now in place. So we're going to have to rework the water system so to make sure that it supports the fire system. At that point in time, we've already received approval from you to sign the contract. We have not signed it yet. We're waiting for that next step to be completed.
How much does a fire suppression system impact the system design? I've never done one.
I might be up to like a 30% from my understanding. I'm not the engineer, but it could be, depends on type of system. There's all kinds of things in there that are new.
You have to have, but it must be pressure, the pressure must be great.
Depends on the type of system that they designed to put into the building.
I wouldn't imagine numbers that high. I mean,
No, not 30. What would you say?
I can't imagine it have much impact on it.
I don't know.
when you're talking about new construction, aftermarket, retrofitting, 30% is a reasonable number. In new construction, you're talking about much, much less than that.
Well,
No, I was talking about
but I don't know how tight.
Sizing the water system.
Right. So I don't know how
I'm talking about
tight.
Installation costs.
I don't know about how tight their current design is for, there we're talking what, 92 homes,
89.
89,
Yeah.
right there at the 90 level. And what's the size pipe required? How tight did they build it the first time? How much extra capacity is in it? So that's got to be, we've got Charlie, we got GMB
Unless they
looking
all
at that.
go off at the same time.
Exactly. Well, and so that's just it. Do you have to design for 50% of the system? That's, or is it only one at a time? There's a lot of ifs in there
I
that
don't have any feel for it.
depending on the
For
fire code.
residential, it's much more
Yeah,
lower,
have to be.
but for townhouses, multifamily townhouses, it's actually larger.
Correct. And I think that's what we're dealing with, right?
You are.
So I think that 30 is pretty,
Yeah.
So my question is this, has that just came up, has the owner and the developer accepted that?
Yes.
So they're going to put it, they've accepted to put it.
There's been no application, there's been no denial.
Okay, well, that was my first question, because when I first heard it, I thought, well, that I know it wasn't in the code or anything else, so they might not have accepted it.
so that's where it sits. We're kind of but we're moving forward. Again, we're prepared to provide the water and sewer there. We also, again, just so you know, if they don't feel that our time frame for getting them the water and sewer connections is not adequate, they have every right to get it themselves. And that's part of the contract as well. So that's not something hanging over our head or of any issue.
And you're definitely not going to get through this Why don't you, if these are
Let me go.
in list, yeah, go over the ones that are most important.
And then
Because Austin can bring us up to speed after you're gone.
After I'm gone.
After you're gone, right.
Since you've been gone, since you've been gone. All right.
Hey, Darren, just a quick question. Given all these moving pieces, do we have the project management resources we need to make sure that we're doing all the things that we need to do as it relates to our
So
responsibility?
let me tell you exactly what I've told Austin, is that you rely heavily on the engineers.
I get that.
And so that really is, that's where we've got these lists that's come, we've sat down with Charlie. They've got his staff, we're relying heavily on that. Is this a matter where if you were a larger organization, you could actually have project managers, et cetera. We are not that. And so at this time, when you have a spike in growth, I say you use Charlie. We have the mechanism of recovering those costs in the contracts and what we're doing.
Yeah.
Again, go back to that line. And so as this comes down in a year and a half, 2 years, you're not going to have the same demand there. And
Well,
so
if everybody gets this, they have a lot of clients like us. And if everybody gets the money that we're looking for, they're not gonna have enough people either. So that's gonna be a problem.
yeah,
might
so
come
you're
up.
gonna,
But they don't have the manpower to do this, right now.
Okay.
They're going to need to have.
they'll get more, yeah, but so that at this point in time, that's where I rely heavily upon. If you're looking at, again, as I go, I recommend you hire Austin, and I recommend you get an assistant general manager very quickly, that you move on that in a quick way, because he's got a lot of work to do.
Yeah, and I guess along those lines, not to, we need to make sure that Austin has the resources starting Monday, that we as a board authorize use of GMB and other outside sources to supplement until we have a full functional staff again.
Good.
So I figured to replace Darren, we probably need a quarter of a person.
Yeah.
You're all right, Tom.
All right.
You're always concerned.
Well, because there's a lot of projects, a quarter will do it.
Again, we've gone through these. Notice at, let's see, high level. We do have Pullman to the 24th. We're gonna write the check and be done with that and get out of there, right, Anne Marie?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, good
I'm
answer.
sorry, I
Where
was-
are you
I
with
was-
You're talking to Josh over
I
here.
I was making
Where's
eyes with
Coleman?
Josh to see if he's.
Coleman and 24.
No, I know where it is. I live there. But
That's right.
but
That's,
where is it on this list?
it's right down here.
Okay,
First page.
I got it.
bottom.
Yep.
We've got issues. We're working very feverishly to get the well developed, et cetera. There's some issues there with the state hydrogeologic study that's moving forward. We're confident it'll be taken care of. Cedar Avenue.
But excuse me, with that, it also includes the treatment facilities. Has GMB been involved in the planning of
Yes.
that? So
Yes.
they're on board.
Yep, we've discussed that and they're moving forward on it. State Park, we've got a contract, which you're about to sign, dot the i's, and we're also going after the loan from the state. We get the loan, they'll pay for it. It's a win-win. I don't know if they can get any advantage from the ARA fund money or not. Who knows? Water main assessment. I think we look at that assessment. We don't want to get into the road right now and take those coupons out. That's going to be a little slower than we would like. But right now, we don't want to go shut off half of Cedar while everybody's here, just to cut a piece of pipe out of the ground. And so we're going to probably wait till late August, September before that begins. Even then, we may.
October is more realistic.
That's really when we ought to be slow walking it to there. Again, Cedar, I kind of break into two. We're going to do all of the manholes. We're going to do a lining to strengthen those. Then they'll be good for a long, long time. And then we'll work on the water. And I think we can push that towards that ARA money. Let's go down Pilot Town Road Sewer. It's going to get right back into swing come October. And it's going to go all the way through May of next year. But it should be completed and it'll be a beautiful job. Lewes Dairy, that's part of it. Don't worry about that. The Historic Lodge, that's moving forward. Same with Dutchman's Harvest. Harbor Point, you need to know that both Harbor Point and Mariners Retreat, Harbor Point failed their walkthrough. They failed their second walkthrough. They've now got George and Lynch, and I believe I've looked at what they have done, and I think it is going to be complete.
Water or sewer? What?
It's both water and sewer. They did a terrible job. They had valve boxes this high out of the ground in people's front yards. They had clean outs that were half under concrete. It was a little rough. And then they came back, we're ready to go, and then hadn't done a dang thing. Anyways, they were embarrassed, and we're not going to go look at it again. Mariners Retreat, this is Randy Burton. He has also not passed it. He has also not kept up with his contract to keep an escrow in place. I'm going to probably ask Mike to go ahead and sue him at the end of the 30 days of the last discussion we
How
had.
many days do you have left?
You got like 6, I think.
We'll double check.
You'll double check that, but I'm ready to, as I walk out the door, punch him right in the nose. All right, you got that on record.
You want that on-
Let's clarify, Darren, that it's the LLC. Randy has been
That's
very
right.
vocal.
It's not him.
Old Town Bank.
And I appreciate him recognizing that he's received the document.
Yeah, it is Old Town Ventures, and
We
he's
better
not,
quit. We better quit now.
All kidding aside, there is an existing agreement with obligations. We will look at the agreement and look at all available remedies regarding the LLC.
sold out.
Thank
That
you.
was it.
Fisher's Cove, it's coming up. Old Town Adventures at White's Pond, that's coming up. Verdon Subdivision, that's coming up. Elevated Storage Tank, definitely want to take a look at that. I'd like to work, we've asked Charlie to move that forward, get it shovel ready and see if we can
I
take.
still am concerned about the sizing of that tank, and I think you need a second opinion. I think that's very important.
I think that probably lends itself very well to being in ARPA money.
You got it. Yes, on both of those statements.
Yeah, because we originally we were talking about 1 million gallon. I think we had talked about downsizing it.
Yeah, I think it was like 0.75.
That's right. Rough number, I think.
But I think we ought to get a second opinion. I really do.
This goes to the conversation that we've had about, you have a more than a 10% growth scheduled in the next 5 years. So that's why you need to factor that in.
Wastewater treatment plant, elevation cert, that'll get handled. Wastewater treatment headworks. And what I would say with the headworks, Austin is going to be sitting down with the guys down at the wastewater treatment plant because we keep getting thrown at us the things that are breaking and falling apart. And we'd like to get a better look at what really our capital cost demands in that plant so that we don't keep piecemealing it and keep getting hit by, 15, 20,000 at a shot because of pumps, blowers, et cetera. And so again, we've asked them for their O&M, their maintenance plan. We've asked them to sit down with us and really take a look at what we need to do over the next couple of years. The next item you'll see is the electric conditions. We have asked an electrician, Dolphin Electric. This is the gentleman that runs all of the plant for SPI Pharma. And so he fits perfectly into a industrial setting. He's going to go through and look at every one of the motors in there. He's going to look at the electric boxes. He's going to see what needs to be maintenance, dielectric sprays on connectors, all of those things that should be in place that may not be. He's going to come back to us with a plan that he can do probably on an annual basis to maintenance that. One of the issues we have.
That's not in it for Mark's.
Well, that's just it. Infomark does not have an electrician. And so whenever they need an electrician, they have to go get an electrician to do any of this work. And so that's a very real weakness that I see.
But it's not covered by the overall work required by the contract. I mean, I don't care who they have, but if they're required to do it,
right?
Why are we paying another person to do it?
We'll have to look at the contract, see if that falls outside of scope.
Right, so I'll be intentionally limited. The contract has the monthly maintenance, and at the end of the year, you look and you reconcile. And I'll just simply say we'll be reviewing the reconciliation.
Battery at Schley, that's going to be going out to bid very shortly. GIS yet to be discussed, and
Well, we haven't seen anything on, the board hasn't seen anything on that. I mean, the rest of the board. about exactly what we're talking about, size and all that.
Are you talking about the battery?
The battery.
Yeah.
So we gotta see that.
We'll get we can
Yeah.
share with you the bid packet that's been put together. And Tom's done a great job on that, and thank you. So is Austin. GIS, AMI, August meeting, we'll have a report on that for the, from DMEC. Community solar yet to be discussed, also out there. Employee handbook, August board meeting, finance committee develop. My request for that is Earl's spearheading that, developed with treasurer and board's direction. And can we also
targeting August,
define the purpose and policy of that organization? What's that?
Say again, Earl, we didn't get that.
So we were targeting August for an updated review on that to get final board approval.
Okay.
And I'd simply say, put into writing, what is the purpose of that board and what are the guidelines of that board, of that
So you get that, Austin,
committee?
for.
I will bring Austin into that process. I've asked some folks from the city if they had anything that we could leverage to kind of have as a foundation as well. But we will make sure that Austin is deep in the loop on this prior to it being presented.
Thank you.
Yep.
Schley Avenue Master Plan, that's going to be coming up, part of our MOU with the city. And then some of the things that I've thought about for the ARA monies, Canal Crossing. We've got EQ tank at the wastewater treatment plant. Kings Highway, we've got that out about.
Canal Crossing, we're talking about the sewer now.
No, I'm talking water. I would say water on that
Okay.
one. And then Monroe Avenue, we've got that coming up with the city. I don't know if you guys have, if there's any way of putting that together with some ARA money as well. Something we can
We
consider.
can look at it.
Again, very close to being shovel ready and
We could use ARA money on the wastewater portion, but
Not the water.
not the street.
Not the.
And as I sit here as the utility director, that's exactly what I'm excited about. No, but really truly, your water and sewer, if we can save that money there, I mean, that'd be
Kings Highway and Monroe, they water or sewer?
both.
Well, question on that. If it's a BPW project to do the water and sewer, we're obligated to replace the street.
Yeah.
Would the ARA drop into that as well?
So I would want Glenn to look specifically at that. But again, when you get into water, sewer, street, that 1.7 million doesn't take you very far. So,
Right.
you know, we'll look at how we can best leverage.
Yeah, I was just wondering if we change the lead from the city to BPW, does it help us all?
We'll see.
And that might be also a question for the WEAC, that if we do a project, does that paving get covered by the ARA monies because it's ours?
Well, it's already, they're already existing streets. So if you're disturbing them to put a new water and sewer, you would think it would.
Correct. So does that become, is that something that becomes our project, not yours?
Right. One project that's, I think you ought to think about, and that is how do we deal with EV going forward? And that, because I think, what we're seeing is a lot more EV cars running around and we only have 4 charging stations in the city.
Do you have any type of permitting requirement for people that are, because we haven't seen, I don't think we've seen anybody come in to change their transformers.
So they're all using trickle charge at this
So
point.
we don't see a way of us to actually track how many we have. Do you have a way of doing that?
We haven't come up with anything yet, but we can certainly discuss that. But I think there's a bigger question, and that is, do we have to put some more EV stations into public parking? I mean, should we be looking at putting EV stations on Second Street? These are in 1812 lot. These are questions that we really are going to have to deal with, and that's
And once again, with AMI, we'll have greater visibility because we'll be able to see at least Cat 2 charging stations.
Yeah.
I'm not sure whether we probably could even see Cat 1 stations, but.
Can I just throw this out here real quick? I see doing that. One of the big, so you've got EV charging stations, some that are just simply a charging station, those that collect a dollar amount for it. And it's, in my mind, I'm a cheapskate. I like going cheap. I'd just as soon put one of those in that is not charged, but you put that, you leave your city meter on it. And we charge them $5 an hour. collect it. they-
Considering we charge $1 an hour now.
Correct, correct. But I mean, really, truly, we can figure out what that would be.
Yeah.
You now have a parking spot that collects this much. We collect our part. You guys would collect the remain. I mean,
It's all how we
I think
structure
there's-
it, Darren. I think you're a good suggestion.
a way of doing it that way versus trying to spend a.
One of the
Whole lot more.
concerns with that always comes up in the industry forums is you want to make sure those spots turn over.
Correct.
And not that someone parks it, charges, and then the spot is lost for
The whole-
charging other vehicles.
the
So,
whole day.
If you're charging by the time, then that's good.
Well, and if,
Well,
and again,
except if
$5 an
they're all-
hour, $6 an hour.
if
Yeah.
we only have two of them on Second Street and there's a car parked there that's fully charged, even though you're getting the revenue, that means that another EV can't charge.
Yeah, I think
So
that
there's,
you could do that with our existing meters, which will limit, you can only be there 3 hours.
right, I mean, you have
So
to,
that, we might be able to structure that. but-
right, yeah, that's something just to consider going. down the
Absolutely, I
line.
agree with you, Tom.
Because some corporations, what they're doing is they're doing concierge parking.
Right.
So that they can shuffle people's cars through.
Yeah, I'm sure that, BB's even considering what are they going to do with EVs vehicles? Because I'm given the number of staff they have and a parking garage, I would imagine they're getting some requests there. So, okay.
Hey, Darren, on a different.
Last thing I have.
No, can I throw one more at you? Sorry.
Wait a minute. Hold on. Go ahead, Earl.
If I can throw one more at you. So I know that we're waiting on the survey for the wastewater treatment plant, but I wonder if sea level rise, mitigation with the wastewater treatment plant is something that can be thrown into that math as well, if that would help us.
For the money you're talking about?
Yeah, the money. So if we need to do some kind of a mitigation to make the wastewater treatment plant safer longer, what is it that we might be able to do and pull money in from these different programs?
It's going to be an effort to determine what we got to do and when it's needed.
Right.
I think.
Is that a Dutch dike around it?
Well, we talked about.
I'm serious.
Yeah, sure.
A wall.
And actually, the legislation is going to support things related to climate change. I mean, resiliency and such. So we'll have to see what actually comes out. And, as the mayor had mentioned, it would have to be done, obligated by 24 and done by 26. So that does give us some time on that.
And again, that's not moving the plant per se, that's figuring how to mitigate it and make.
Right, it's mitigation, correct.
But building a seawall around it.
Right,
is
how to make the
probably
plant
cheaper
more
than moving it.
more resilient.
Yeah.
Either seawall or whether it's raising penetrations. I mean,
Yeah.
what that means, something we have to look at.
Good point. Darren, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Thank you all. It's been a pleasure. Absolute pleasure.
It's been a pleasure for us. Thank you for everything.
Let's go to lunch.
You're going to be missed.
I still think you ought to have ice cream Friday.
Next Friday.
Next Friday, huh?
We still have called the public and
Yes.
then
Yeah, I'm walking away already. Well, we're not going to have an executive session, so we're not having that. So we have a call to the public, call to the press. Nothing there. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.